everyone, and welcome back to Mind Your Mission. It's just me here today because Liz is in Indiana with her family for her baby shower, and so in honor of that I thought it would be fun to sit down by myself and film a video that's going to be titled What You Really Need in terms of baby items. I've been inspired by Liz's registry. I've been looking at her registry and giving her my thoughts already, and so I figured I would just make a whole video out of it. I feel like although it's going to be titled What You Really Need, it's more so honestly what I found that I really needed as a mom, and so a lot of this might not be applicable to everybody. This is just my experience, my thoughts, my recommendations when friends ask me. I thought it would be fun to film it kind of YouTube style, which just means that there's going to be more visual aspects to this episode than usual. So if you don't already know, it's a great time to shout out that our podcast is on YouTube as well as video on Spotify. So if you want to see some of the things that I have here to show you as far as baby items, go ahead and either watch on YouTube or on Spotify. And with that, let's get into it. So I formatted this list based on the way that Liz's baby registry was outlined, and she did her baby registry through Babylist, which is just a website that helps you make a registry. There's a lot out there. I just used Amazon for mine, but I'm just gonna go through the categories that Babylist organized for her and give you my thoughts, the products that I would buy and I'm going to be using for baby number 2. So the first category on this registry is feeding. Now, initial thoughts on feeding. I am a big advocate for every mom trying the absolute best that they can to breastfeed. Now, I know that this doesn't go perfectly for everybody. I will say it's a lot harder than I realized. Yes, breastfeeding is a natural process, but it's one that takes work. It really flips your life upside down as far as how your time is orchestrated. Your whole life for those first few months seems to just revolve around breastfeeding, and so it's a big undertaking, but not only for the health benefits that it'll bring your baby, but also for the health benefits it'll bring you as a mom and the bonding that it'll create between you and your baby. I highly recommend it, and am going to say that any new mom who hopes to breastfeed, I would plan your registry around that. And what I mean by that is I think that there are a lot of products out there that make a lot of sense for moms who end up having to pump or end up having to use formula. However, I wouldn't buy those right off the bat because you want to be hopeful that you won't need those items. If you later down the line realize that you do, you can always buy them, but they're not items that I would put on a registry in hopes that I wouldn't need them, if that makes any sense. So some of the products that you are going to need for breastfeeding in general, there's not much because it's really just you and your baby. However, we'll talk more about postpartum essentials in another video, but some good nursing bras are something that you'll need. I'll kind of go into detail on that in the future because these are things you'll probably want to buy yourself versus putting on a registry. Our nursing bras and things like lanolin for comfort. A few things that I would put on your registry in the breastfeeding category are silverettes, which I never ended up getting, but I realize 100% now why you need them. They seemed like a super expensive item that didn't do much, but to have that silver barrier between you and a bra seems very nice. So that's something that I, depending on how breastfeeding is the second time around, will definitely be purchasing and recommend for new moms. Another thing I'd put on your registry is a nursing cover, specifically one that has a ring, and I'll show you. This is the one that I got. It's just on Amazon, but what it has is it has a plastic ring in the top of it so that when you put it on, nobody can see you, but you can still see your baby. I know that this isn't the case for a lot of moms. A lot of moms can just like throw their baby under their shirt and not like have to look at them to get a good latch. But for me, especially in those early days, it was important to be able to see my baby and to watch his mouth and see his latch. And so being able to see your baby but still be hands-free was really huge. So I'd highly recommend one that has a ring like this. I'll link everything down below that I mentioned that I can find anyway, so that you can see that. Another thing I'd put on your registry for nursing is a nursing pillow or two, specifically if you have a house that you could be feeding in either upstairs or downstairs. For my first baby, I got this nursing pillow. It doesn't even really look like a nursing pillow, but what you can do is tie it around your waist. So you put it on your belly and then tie it around your waist so that your baby can just sit right on top of it. Most of the time I didn't even end up actually tying it around my waist. I just would put it here, lay my baby on top. It was nice because I could like lay it next to me and put my baby like in the football hold if I needed to. This one is the brand BB Hug Me. For baby number 2, I'll probably be purchasing just a normal boppy for downstairs on the couch, just so that I can have one both up with my swivel chair, which is another thing I'd recommend, upstairs in our room, and then one downstairs so that wherever I plop down to feed, I'll have a nursing pillow easily accessible. I know a lot of people really like the My Breast Friend pillow. Even just having normal pillows was helpful. Honestly, that's all you really need. I mentioned a swivel chair. I got a reclining swivel chair just from Costco. It doesn't have to be fancy, but I do recommend that it both reclines and swivels. I know some of them do like one or the other, either they swivel or just recline, and it was actually like harder for me to find one than I thought because I didn't want to spend $1,000 on a chair that I knew was gonna get stained. And like my chair's held up really well, but it's had poop stains and spit up and everything on it. But I do recommend having a chair either in your room or a nursery if you have a specific nursery for your baby. Other things for feeding, I recommend having a ton of burp cloths, and I actually just recommend having white burp cloths. And the reason that is because baby spit up is white, and so if you have, say, a red or a pink or a blue burp cloth, it's really easy to see the spit up. And not that you want to hide it, but having a white burp cloth was just really easy because I could just keep folding it over and use it for longer. Another thing I'd recommend, of course, are bibs for your baby. And before I became a mom, I didn't understand why newborns needed bibs because they're not even eating food yet. And then I was like awakened to the fact that babies spit up constantly or are snotty constantly once they get to an older age. Like, it's just really nice to have an initial layer here that you can replace. So I would get a ton of bibs, at least 10. Like, you want to have at least a week's worth, so because you're going to go through them pretty quickly. And for both of these things, for pretty much everything fabric related on a registry, the more research that I've done has pointed me to using 100% cotton for as much as you can, just because of the microplastic exposure in other fabrics. And now I know that this seems kind of nitpicky for those of you who haven't gone down the crunchy rabbit hole yet, but if you're going to buy anything and invest in anything, I'd recommend getting cotton, just because it's a fabric that's going to last longer. It will get softer with every single wash and it'll hold up, and it's better for your baby and you overall. So Burt's Bees, I know, is a brand that has a lot of cotton options, and I'll talk more about clothing down the line, but for bibs and burp cloths, Burt's Bees has been a great brand that I have found and resorted to. Another thing you're definitely going to need is some sort of nursing pad. If you didn't know, after giving birth, I didn't know this, I didn't have these before I gave birth. As your body is regulating, and for those first couple months, you pretty much have to wear, at least I did, a pad at all times because you're always a little bit leaky in some form or fashion. So I got reusable nursing pads. I also would recommend all white for these, specifically because in the wash, once you wash them, you don't want to have to sit there with the laundry basket full of nursing pads and like match them up based on the color. I got like cute colored ones, and I just feel like I spent so much unnecessary time trying to match them. And of course I could have worn them mismatched, but I'm just not that kind of person who can do that. I have to have matching socks, matching nursing pads. I don't know, that's just me. So I'd recommend all white for those too. And then 2 more items in the breastfeeding category that I'd recommend. These are both in the milk collection category. I would recommend a hand pump. This is not only good for when you do have to start pumping if you're going back to work, just to like have an initial introduction to how a pump feels and how a pump works. But also there were multiple cases where I was just very engorged and needed some relief and had to just hand express, which is totally doable. But hindsight, because I didn't get this till later, I wish I had this earlier, because it would have been easier just to like take the initial edge off with a hand pump. And then another pump, some people call this a hand pump, but I don't really see it as a pump. It's more just a collection method, is Haka. I'm sure you've heard of a Haka. If you haven't, this is an introduction to a Haka. A Haka is just a silicone milk collection method that you can stick to one breast while your baby feeds on the other. And the way that I use the Haka, initially I was exclusively breastfeeding for a very long time. I first introduced any sort of milk collection using the Haka, and that was in the morning time when my breasts were super full and my baby was hungry because he hadn't eaten all night. However, one breast would fill him up, and so I needed relief on the other side. And so while he fed on the one breast in the morning, I would use the Haka on the other and collect probably 2-3 ounces just from letting it drip, basically, is how it works. And that's how I initially started, just storing up a little bit of breast milk for a freezer supply over time. I did not pump a whole freezer stash before I went back to work. I just used the Haka, and I'll explain kind of how I stored milk and all that in a minute, but I just used the Haka. That's really all I use, because your breasts are most full in the morning, and I just collected the extra, and my body never had an oversupply. I never had an undersupply. I feel like it was very on par with what my baby needed. And yeah, one recommendation I do have with the Haka, you see that I have 2 different types here. I love the size of this one. Like, this is the size that you really need. However, I cannot tell you how many times this little guy either got bumped over, accidentally fell over, because I would use it and then I would set it on the counter while I cleaned myself up and laid my baby down before I took it to the fridge. But this one just does not have a solid base. It's very tippy. And so if you're going to get one, I highly recommend getting the bigger one that has a solid suction base and a lid, so that you don't waste those precious little ounces. And even though they're little, they're precious. So don't waste any breast milk. Get the bigger one. Get 2, just so that you have multiple for rotation. You can have one clean upstairs or in your bedroom where you need it. Another thing, as we transition to bottle feeding recommendations, I will talk about this more in the future, but I do highly recommend a lactation consultant. Both initially in the hospital, most hospitals offer an in-house lactation consultant, and then through your insurance, I don't know about most, but at least our TRICARE did, they offer lactation consultants covered by your insurance. I would recommend this for the initial introduction to breastfeeding, but then also, especially if you're having to transition back to work, they really helped me with that transition and maintaining an adequate supply. But when it comes to bottle feeding, a few things I'd recommend are glass bottles for sure. Again, we're going down the crunchy rabbit hole, but we're trying to limit the amount of plastic exposure that our babies have. So glass bottles are definitely the recommendation that I have. I also don't think that you need more than 4 bottles, to be honest, unless, again, you realize that down the line you're going to be exclusively using bottles. We only used bottles when I was at work. I never really ever gave my son a bottle, so we didn't need very many. I also know people stress about which type of bottle their baby's gonna like. I'd recommend just putting one type of glass bottle on your registry. We had the Philips Avent bottle, and then you can buy more if your baby happens to be really picky and not take a certain bottle. Most of the time, and this was the case for our son, he didn't enjoy taking a bottle initially, but it had nothing to do with the type of bottle. He just preferred me. And so I know a lot of moms go and stress out and try a bunch of different bottle types to see what their baby likes, but it's kind of hard to tell what a baby likes. They might just prefer you, and so it just takes time, consistency, and everything. So I wouldn't go overboard with the type of bottles or how many bottles. Like, I would just get 4 glass bottles and start there, and you can always buy things down the line. That's the beauty of like overnight delivery these days. So that's my recommendation. And then another thing, okay, this is like one of those items that I was referencing earlier where if you end up exclusively pumping or needing to use formula, I can see how they might be helpful, but I wouldn't recommend them right off the bat. And that is one, a bottle sterilizer. I don't think you need a bottle sterilizer. We, for one, like I said, we don't use bottles very often, and so we just will hand wash them and put them in the drying rack right after we use them. Or we also run the dishwasher every day in our house, and so we would just throw them in the dishwasher and they'd get sterilized that way. And when it comes to sterilizing, of course it's the smart thing to do, but I think that most moms realize that they're more stressed about this originally from the get-go, and then realize that it's just unrealistic to keep up with it and unrealistic to keep a whole nother appliance on your countertop just for bottles. So yes, it's important to sterilize, but there's so many other ways to do that, either using a pot of water on the stove, or they have like microwave sterilizing bags that you can use. So I just wouldn't want another, we have small countertops, I just wouldn't want another appliance to worry about. And then another thing that I have seen on people's registries that I just never found a use for is a breast milk warmer. And again, totally makes sense if you're using formula, but I never had to bottle feed on the go. I would just breastfeed, and so the only time we needed to warm up milk was when family fed him from a bottle at home. So we were home, and all I did then was put the glass bottle of milk in a bowl of hot water. That's how we warmed it. So I would just hold off on getting a breast milk or formula warmer until you see that you need it. A few other things that you will need for bottle feeding are a bottle brush. And then when I went back to work, I found this nifty little thing. It's a tiny collapsible case, but it's a drying rack that has a brush inside of it. And this is what I used at work. I just set on the counter and left it at work. So you're gonna need a bottle brush or two, one for home, one for work if you're pumping at work. When it comes to pumping, again, insurance will cover the cost of a pump. I would highly recommend, in the case that you are working, getting both a wall pump, because that's what you want to use primarily, because it has stronger suction that mimics your baby more closely than a portable pump does. But I would recommend also getting a portable pump. I got the Mom Cozy pump. Really simple to use. This is what I used when I first started pumping, which I know I probably shouldn't have done now, but it just looks like this, and you can just put it right in your bra. So I had this for on the go, and then I kept my wall plug-in pump at work because that's what I was using primarily. I just kept it in the nursing room and never had a need to transport it back and forth. Like, we just have little cubbies and I just put it in there. So those are the two pumps that I would recommend. There's so many different types of portable pumps and other pumps these days, but every mom just recommends whatever she has and whatever worked for her, and I don't think that they're actually that different. What I do think is important is making sure that you have the right flange size, and asking a lactation consultant about that can help. And then I would just have your insurance cover whichever one is more expensive. At the time, my insurance wasn't covering portable pumps, but now they are, it sounds like. And so just whatever the portable or stationary pump, whichever one is more expensive, just have insurance cover that one and then put the other one on your registry. And then I want to explain, at least try to explain, the system that I had for milk collection and milk storage, because before I had a baby and was going through this breastfeeding process, I saw people with huge freezer supplies and little breast milk storage bags, and they had like fancy like lunch boxes that had a bunch of like ice packs to keep their milk cold, and there was just a lot that I saw and was kind of overwhelmed by. But the system that worked really well for me, that helped me not ever have an oversupply or an undersupply, to have an adequate supply for my baby and to simplify the whole thing, was one, to get the Series Chill storage system. This was actually gifted to me by a friend. It was one of those gifts that wasn't on my registry, but a friend just sent me knowing that I needed it. And it was something that worked so well for her that she wanted all her mom friends to have access to. And this to me is way simpler than having to put your milk in bags at work. That just like, now that I've gone through it, doesn't compute in my brain. So basically at work, this is what I do. I go to work in the morning. Before I leave, I fill, this is just a water bottle basically, except it has a few more parts that make it special. And so I would fill this inner chamber with ice before I left the house. And then I would stick this thing in my backpack. So basically just throwing a water bottle in your backpack. Then when I got to work, I would pump. As soon as I was done pumping, I would pour the milk in this guy and put the cap on and call it good. Then when I got home from work, I would go to the fridge where I kept my breast milk pitcher, and I would pour the milk that I pumped from one day into the pitcher, and that's what my son would drink the next day. And it was simple as that. Then on Friday, since I wouldn't need milk on Saturday, Friday was the day that I did put milk in the freezer. So Friday I would come home, pour my milk in the pitcher, and then use the pitcher to fill little bags and put them in the freezer. And then Sunday night I would get milk, the oldest milk, out of the freezer and use that for Monday, and then the cycle would just repeat itself throughout the week. And so I was never filling more bags than I needed to. I was only filling bags with milk on the weekend. So that's how I did it. And it was very simple. I'll explain a few more features of the series Chill, and I'll link this down below. But you can also pump, so you could do it either way. You could, I always had more milk than would fill this, and so I put it in here, but you can also reverse it and put ice in here and fill this with milk. And then this is the size that connects to most pumps, and so you could directly put this onto your pump and pump right into it and then just put it in the bottle. It also has like an inner cap, and so there's like, it adapts to different pump sizes and everything. Another thing that I like about it is that it's multi-purpose. This comes with a water bottle lid, and so legitimately not only is it an incredible breast milk storage system that is simple, but it's also a water bottle. So once you're done breastfeeding, you can just use it as a water bottle. So highly recommend that system. And then this breast milk pitcher, the only reason I'd recommend a breast milk pitcher specifically versus just a mason jar or something is because it has the stirring feature. I looked on Amazon and they do make a glass alternative to this, which would be much more desirable and I would like to purchase for baby number 2. So it's just a mason jar with a lid that has the stir feature, and the stir feature just, it stirs it without there being air bubbles in the milk. And so that's the only reason why I'd recommend that specifically versus just a mason jar. Plus it has a really good spout, which is important because again, you don't want to waste any precious liquid gold. So that's kind of how I did breastfeeding, pumping, milk storage, all that. If you have any questions, please let me know. Friends, definitely reach out. But I just think that it works best when you simplify it. And when you're only pumping what your baby needs and you're just pumping at the exact same times that your baby would be eating. That's my recommendation. I was super overwhelmed and didn't understand how milk storage and pumping and all that worked, but I figured it out and I feel like I simplified it in my brain. The feeding category is kind of a big category because it extends from breastfeeding, but then to also food feeding. So I'm gonna jump into the things I would recommend on a registry for food when you're introducing solids to your baby. I did the baby-led weaning method, which is just basically giving your baby whatever you guys are eating, but in a proper shape and form. There's an app that you look up the food and it shows you what format is best for what age. I did do some purees initially, but with my baby holding the spoon because I was a little bit nervous about the baby-led weaning stuff. And so for that, I found some baby-led weaning spoons that were really helpful. These ones are the Num Num brand, and so Most of the time I would load the spoon and then hand it to Weston and he would bring it to his mouth, but they are designed so that babies can just like squish the food in between here on their plate and then bring it to their mouth, which he learned how to do eventually, and now he's like actually full on like using a spoon. So I had those, and then I also found these little guys, fork and a spoon, which again I would just load for him and hand it to him so that he's in control of the feeding experience. That's like a big concept that's wrapped up in baby-led weaning, is that they're in control and they eat how much they want to eat and all that. And so I would recommend putting these on your registry. The only other things that I got that were silicone besides these were, well, the only other things that I'd recommend getting silicone are bibs. I'd recommend a 3-pack of silicone bibs. You don't need any more than that because again, you're just gonna wash them and more is just extra clutter in your house. So I'd get silicone bibs on your registry, and then I started with a silicone plate, one of the easy peasy plates that sticks to the table or the high chair. However, one day I was eating my baby's leftovers and realized that they had a bad taste to them because of the silicone. And I know silicone is technically safer than plastic, but I feel bad that he had to deal with this lingering silicone taste. So from there on out, we have been using this stainless steel plate. This one looks like a dog bowl, but I love it. I can't find this on Amazon. It's been like sold out. It's like some Korean brand, Grosimi. But I love this one because it's little and travels well. But I recently ordered for Prime Day, I ordered some of the Elk and Friends stainless and then also porcelain plates that have a silicone sleeve. So they still stick to the table and have that feature, which you need because your baby will try to throw their food, throw their plate, but they're not going to give your baby that gross taste or introduce them to any toxins that you don't want introduced. So overall, if I were starting over, I would get 2 stainless for travel, mostly 2 stainless plates and 2 porcelain plates. And then if you can find this Grosimi one, it's great for travel. I'll link it if I can. And then I would recommend 2 of the porcelain bowls by Elk and Friends. 1 or 2 of their stainless snack cups have been really great for us as he's gotten older. And then they also have on the Elk and Friends website, if you want everything to match, they also have the stainless silverware with silicone handles that have been really good for us. As far as a high chair goes, we did get the Stoke Trip Trap high chair, which is a more expensive high chair. I think it's a Swedish brand. We found it on Facebook Marketplace. I wouldn't buy this new because there's a ton out there on Facebook and it's just so expensive new. But I really enjoy it because it pulls right up to the table so he can eat at the table with the rest of us. Plus it's wood, and so it's going to last a long time. We can always sand it and repaint it if it gets dings on it or anything like that. I've loved that high chair. If I didn't get the Stoke, then I'd probably go with the one that's on Liz's registry, which I think is the Lalo high chair, or the Mockingbird. Both of these have a footstool for the baby, which is important for their digestive tract, to have a footstool to put their feet on just so that they can sit without their feet dangling. I know that eating for myself is not very comfortable with my feet dangling. So those are the high chairs that I'd recommend. And then when it comes to cups, I would recommend having a little open face cup for your baby to start playing with. Weston still has no idea. Well, he's starting to get an idea of how to use an open face cup. But I'd get one of those. And then as far as a straw cup, the Grosimi brand of straw cup has been incredible. I saw a TikTok or a reel, I don't watch TikTok, but I saw a reel on this cup, and that's why I bought it initially. This was before my crunchy delve, obviously, because it's plastic. But this one is great because, so if I can explain this, when babies are learning how to drink from a straw cup, it's tricky if the straw doesn't touch the water. Like if the water's running out and the straw is above the water, then they like don't know how to turn it to fix that. And so Weston, like with this one, if he's holding the handles and the straw is up here, it's really nice because I can just tilt it while he's holding the handles and he can get more water. So the straw is longer than the cup, so it goes in one corner, so I can just twist it. A lot of them, it's like you can get one feature but not the other. Either they're spill proof but don't have this feature. Either they have this feature and then aren't spill proof, either they're stainless and don't have any of these features. So like, it's hard to find the perfect cup. I don't think it really matters, it's just a cup. However, this is one that I have really enjoyed having, and they do make a stainless one that I finally found. It's really expensive on this Korean website, but I think I might order it because it's just been so great, but definitely not necessary. And kids, most of the time Weston just drinks from my water bottle anyway now. We've used this for mostly water, and then we do have the Elkin Friends glass cups with silicone sleeves for when he has cow's milk now at meals. Okay, I think that pretty much wraps up the feeding category. That was a really long category. I'm just looking at Liz's registry to see if there's anything else. But moving on to sleeping. We're going to talk about sleeping. So what you need for a baby is a bassinet. We got one hand-me-down from friends that I really love. It's nothing special, and I don't know that a bassinet has to be, but I have seen, like the one that's on Liz's registry is the Newton, and it does have a side of it that's able to unzip to pull up right to your bed, so you don't have to like reach over the side to grab your baby. So I can see how that would be really helpful. And then as far as like a crib and crib mattress, I know so many people are worried about a breathable mattress and everything, but I'm always watching my baby in the monitor and can see that his chest is rising and falling, so I never worried too much about that. We just got a crib off of Facebook Marketplace along with the mattress. And then again, when it comes to the material of the sheets, I would recommend getting organic cotton sheets if you can. Same for the bassinet. When it comes to swaddles and sleep sacks, I would recommend same thing, organic cotton. Halo is the brand that we've used. They have organic cotton sleep sacks. We've gotten most of ours hand-me-down from friends, which have been amazing. We didn't take these to the hospital, which was a rookie mistake, because at the hospital we had to try to finagle with the blanket and wrap him up that way, and that just failed. So bring your swaddles, your Velcro swaddles or whatever type you end up getting, to the hospital. The Velcro is what worked for us. I again prioritize the fabric type. I do know that Kara from Taking Care of Babies just put out a new sleep sack which doesn't have the loud Velcro but still works the same way, so that you don't have to like wake your baby up. But most of the time whenever I was taking him out of the swaddles, when I wanted him to wake up anyway, so I don't really know, that wouldn't really have mattered for me. I do really recommend her sleep class though. I'm sure I'll talk to Liz in the future about that more, but her sleep class was great for us. But I'd recommend, when it comes to sleep sacks and swaddles, to have 2 in each size. So you only need swaddles for the first couple months of their life before you transition out when they start rolling. So to have 2 newborn, 2 0 to 3 of the sleep sack swaddle combo, and then to have 2 of each size of the sleep sacks from then on out is plenty. That way you just have 1 to use and 1 to wash, and just keep them in a rotation. That's what I would recommend. I'd also recommend getting gender neutral for all of this stuff, because this is all basics that you're gonna need for all of your babies down the line, and you never know if you're gonna have multiple boys, multiple girls, or multiple of each. You never know. So keep it gender neutral. That's my recommendation. As far as a monitor, I would recommend a non-Wi-Fi monitor. I can see why being able to pull up on your phone when you're not home and see your baby would be great, but also I think that I would go crazy looking at it if I had that ability. So I've enjoyed just having a non-Wi-Fi, plus then you're not dealing with all the potential for people to hack your Wi-Fi and all that that's happened out there. And also I have to say, when I'm home, don't want to have to be on my phone all the time, and so to be able to put my phone down and just carry the monitor is what I prefer, so I don't have to go outside and make sure I have my phone. Downstairs and make sure I have my phone, I can just take the monitor with me and leave my phone, because I don't want that thing half the time. I also would recommend getting a monitor that has the ability to connect to more than one camera, because as we're preparing to have more than one baby, it'll be really nice to have one screen and then just toggle between the 2 different cameras. So that's what I'd recommend for monitors. Man, this is like a long video. I didn't realize how long this was gonna be. When it comes to a sound machine, I would recommend the simplest sound machine you can find. We literally have just used a travel sound machine as our permanent one this whole time. I wasn't going to get a sound machine initially because I didn't want him to get used to it, but it's been great mostly for us so that we can move around and be a little bit louder than if there was absolute silence. So I'd recommend a sound machine. I know people get the, I don't remember what the brand is, but I don't want to have to pay for a subscription for my sound machine. That sounds like crazy. I only use the one setting that I found. Most of them come with more than that, even if they are a simple sound machine. Plus, the light feature could be helpful, I can see, but I also just got a separate simple light. So I recommend a simple sound machine. I'll link one down below that stays in the nursery or wherever your baby's sleeping, and then one to take with you for travel or in the car or on the go. And then as far as a nightlight goes, we had ordered nightlights, like the tap lights. I ended up just using my phone because even the nightlight was brighter than I wanted, and I would actually more so just use the red light feature on my watch more than anything, because I do wear my watch at night to track my sleep. And so red light is preferable because it doesn't stimulate your brain as much as white light does. So I would just use that, and that worked for me. So I'd probably hold off on even getting a light to see if you needed it. That's it for the sleep category. Now moving on to diapering. We do, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, we do have an Every Life subscription, so we get their diapers every month. I originally started with Costco diapers, however, and I liked them a lot. They were a good price and good quality, but I think earlier this year they switched their manufacturer and they're just not the same quality, and Every Life has been a better quality for us. Plus, I know that it's more expensive to have a subscription that gets delivered automatically every month. One, that's really convenient, and two, Every Life, you know that you're supporting a company who donates 10% of their profits to pregnancy centers, and I want to be donating to pregnancy centers anyway, so it just kills two birds with one stone. Plus, again, I don't have to think about it. They have wipes too that I haven't tried myself, so I'm not sure the quality of those, but I'm sure that their wipes and diapers have to both be a pretty good quality. And plus, I trust that they're using ingredients that aren't harmful. Right now I just use the Costco wipes because I know that they're a thickness that I enjoy. The water wipes I know are probably best for your health, but they're way too thin in my opinion, and I like a little bit more there when I'm working on diapering. So that's what I'd recommend for diapers. And wipes, I would recommend having a diaper pail in your primary changing station, just because it offers a stink-free place to throw diapers. When it comes to a changing station, I know so many people get the Kikaroo changing pad, but to me, that thing is way too expensive for the purpose that it has. I just use the Skip Hop brand of changing pad. It still looks aesthetically pleasing, and it was not nearly as expensive. We still use a designated changing area up in his room, so I would recommend that. Another thing that I have never understood on people's registries, and like maybe if you get used to it and use it every time, then I see how it could be nice, but is a butt spatula. Like, I think we got one, but I think I got it gifted or something, but I never used it because never am I like around a spatula. Like maybe in your primary changing station, sure, but like most of the time you're just gonna be using your fingers on the go, or I don't know. It just seems like one of those unnecessary items that I would regret getting because it would be clutter. So I don't know, to each their own. As far as diaper cream goes, of course I'm gonna recommend non-toxic. I know Liz has the brand Row on her registry. We've used the Aquaphor brand for diaper paste, and before, the only issues we've ever had with diaper rash have been this summer actually, because he's in the water a lot and wet down in that area, and he's pooping more. So that's the only time we've had diaper rash issues. Initially we just used diaper cream before he went to bed just as a barrier for those longer stretches of sleep, and that's all we've needed it for. So I'd recommend having some of that on your registry as an initial go-to, but don't go too crazy because you might not need that much of it. Another thing Liz has on her registry that I think is super smart is doggy bags for the diaper bag. And I would recommend having a diaper bag because initially for a newborn, all you need in the diaper bag is diapers, wipes, a pad to change them on, and a nursing cover. Like that's all you really have, because they're not playing with toys, they're not eating snacks, they're not doing any of that. But as I've gone on with a toddler, I've realized that having a designated go bag, diaper bag for a baby is so great, because we have toys in there that are already there, snacks. Like it's been more critical for the toddler stage than it was for the newborn stage. But she had doggy bags on her registry, and that's smart, so that when you're on the go, you can throw diapers in a little trash bag and throw them away that way. That way they're not as stinky. And then also I'd recommend having, I mentioned this already, but a mat to change them on, because even if you're changing them on a fold down diaper changing station in the bathroom, like you don't want to lay them right on there, because that's kind of gross. So just to lay them down on a pad is a little bit more sanitary. Or if you're having to change a diaper on somebody's carpet, you don't want to just like get their carpet dirty on accident, so use the pad there. And then another thing we had was wet bags, just so we can put dirty outfits in a wet bag. I haven't dealt with a blowout in a long time, but in those first couple months, it's just crazy how many outfits you're going through. I never realized how much babies pooped, and at least it doesn't stink at that point because it's just breast milk poop. But man, they go through a lot of outfits, so having extra outfits on hand and those wet bags was very important. And then I would recommend having either a diaper caddy, but more so just like a diaper basket or bucket on each floor of your home if you have multiple floors, or in each room that you could be changing diapers in. So in our living room, we literally just have a felt bucket with diapers, wipes, and butt paste. I know some people get like the nice caddies on Amazon, but like the compartments, I know you can take them out, but the compartments don't seem necessary to me, because again, I only have those 3 things in there, so I'm just throwing it all in and I don't need a bunch of different compartments. But just having a caddy, a pad in each place that you could potentially change a diaper is nice. You don't have to like run and grab the diapers every time you need to change them. Next category is baby gear. My voice is like, I'm not used to having to talk this consistently. Usually Liz and I go back and forth, but my voice is like getting tired. But baby gear. I did baby wear Weston a lot, but I didn't understand the concept as quickly as I would have liked. I had a Moby wrap, or similar to a Solly wrap, if you've seen those, but I couldn't figure that thing out for the life of me, to be honest. Like how am I supposed to? I know that I could get used to it if I really tried, but I could just never figure out how to tie that thing around me and then get him in it. Plus he was a big baby, and so I never did it tight enough. So I probably won't be using a soft wrap with future babies. What I would definitely recommend is a typical structured carrier, one that can do rear facing, so facing you, forward facing, so facing away from you, and then a back carry, so like in a backpack. The one that I got cannot do forward facing. I didn't look this much into it when I was getting it, but the way that it straps was impossible. I figured it out eventually, but initially impossible for me to do by myself, because the way that my carrier worked, I had a Tula brand carrier, and they make different ones that are different, but the way that it worked was I put the straps over my shoulders, and then it had to be latched in the back, and I couldn't figure that out by myself, so I had to like latch it here and then like put it over my head, and then it was all uncomfortable. So most carriers these days, you put one strap over your shoulder and then pull it through and clip it right here, and then throw the other strap over your shoulder and clip it down here. So I would just make sure to get one that is that style and that can do all those different positions, because this carrier that I got was a lot of money, but it doesn't do any of those things, and I've realized now that there's much better carriers out there. I also know that carriers are kind of like a fashion staple these days, and I honestly don't know that there's a difference between like the Maybe carrier and the Wild Bird carrier. Like they're all popular for different reasons, but just keep in mind that your husband could potentially be wearing your carrier, and so although I think it's totally fine to get a cute one if you know you're going to be wearing it primarily, just keep in mind if your husband does want to wear it. Like we got a black one and I enjoyed it because my husband did wear it sometimes if we would go for walks and stuff like that, but this time I'm probably going to get a cute Maybe carrier because because I was the one who wore it most often, so totally get that too. When it comes to strollers and car seats, we, for baby number 1, only had a jogger stroller, and then it had a car seat, an infant car seat that clipped into it. And that's all we needed for one baby, and I'm really glad we had a jogger stroller. I think big wheeled strollers are the way to go, because sometimes the little plastic wheels on strollers just boggle my mind. Like, we do a lot of walking on rough terrain, I guess, but I can't imagine not having a stroller that could keep up with that. For baby number 2, we found the Mockingbird single to double stroller on Facebook Marketplace. I would never buy any of these strollers new because they are so expensive, and most of the time you can find them used and in decent condition because moms only use them for a couple of years. So we got that stroller because it has the ability to carry multiple kids. You can do like the roller pad for a third kid even. You can get the bassinet attachment, which I can understand would be better to put them in than having a newborn in a car seat all the time. For us, we did take Weston out of the car, put him right in the stroller, and just go on our way. And then we got home, sometimes we would just take him out of the car, and if he was sleeping, we just let him sleep in his car seat. And I'm gonna try definitely not to do that as much with baby number 2, just because it's not as good for them. They want to have the most opportunities to practice mobility, to practice rolling, to touch their toes, to do all that they can. And so I can see why having a bassinet attachment for a stroller would be a good idea. I know that the Duna or the Evenflow Dual Shift is a really popular stroller these days, and I think it makes sense. Like, being able to grab the car seat and just like plop the wheels down and go seems great for travel. If you're someone who travels all the time, airplane travel, I know that they can go on planes. That's great system for airplane travel and for travel in general. But I also, now that I would never consider buying that for baby number 2, because it depends on how close your kids are in age. But for us, we're gonna need a double stroller, and so if I were to get the Duna or something like that now, I'd have like the Duna and then another stroller. Like, it seems too complicated for me. But I think Liz has on her registry, she got the Mockingbird on Facebook, and then she has a jogger stroller that she found on Facebook, and she put the Evenflow Dual Shift on her registry, which I think is a really good way to go as a first-time mom. And if you're investing in those 3 items, to have the Mockingbird, the Dual Shift, and the jogger stroller, because I can see a use for all 3. And if you want to invest, a good time to invest is your first baby. Moving on to car seats. So initially you just have an infant car seat that clips into a stroller. That's the way to go. But then once they're out of an infant car seat, I would highly recommend a swivel car seat. I know a lot of different brands have a swivel model. These days we have the Evenflow brand, and I feel silly, but also it's legit that I can't imagine having to go in the car and bend my body to grab my heavy toddler out of his car seat, and that just doesn't seem great. All we do is turn the car seat so he's facing us and grab him right out. We can put his shoes on easy that way. We can sit there and eat a snack easy that way. When he was still breastfeeding, I could turn him the other way, like towards the inside of the car, and grab him out easy to breastfeed in the back seat. So highly recommend a swivel car seat, and one that extends from newborn all the way up to the time that they're out of a car seat. Like, ours goes up to over 100 pounds, I think. So get one that is going to be worth the investment for a long period of time. And then a few other accessories for both strollers and car seats. I would recommend having some sort of car seat cover, an infant car seat cover, so that when you are taking your newborn places, you can just put the cover over if they're sleeping, and sit at a coffee shop while they're sleeping in their car seat. Like, babies just sleep all the time when they're little, and so having a cover like that is really handy. And then another accessory I'd recommend for a stroller is a stroller fan, especially if you live somewhere that's hot in the summertime. Like, we use our stroller fan all the time in the summer. I also have little carabiners that attach to my stroller handle, and what I use these for is the grocery store. I'll hook a shopping basket on those 2 carabiners and use that as like my cart. when I have the stroller with me. Most of the time now I just put him in the normal cart, but when he was little he couldn't sit up in a cart, so I just used that system. And then another thing for the car that I'd recommend is a car mirror, just so you can see how they're doing, if they're asleep or not while you're driving, and then a shade for the window if it's not already built into your car. Other baby gear items that should be on your registry are a pack and play, and I'd recommend one that has a bassinet feature if you can find it. I know Graco makes a style like that. Other things are, especially with baby number 2, I think having multiple places around the house to set my baby is important. Of course, I'm going to try to baby wear as much as I can, especially for baby's head, so that it doesn't get flat or anything like that. I'm going to try to baby wear, but it is nice to have multiple stations, as my mom likes to call it, around the house for you to set your baby if you need to do something in the kitchen or in the living room or play with your toddler or anything like that. So I found, didn't have this for baby number 1. I got a cheap version and I regret it. I recommend the Baby Bjorn bouncer. I found one at Once Upon a Child and got that really quickly. If you find one on Facebook Marketplace, I wouldn't buy it new, super expensive, but I'd recommend that one secondhand. Other stations, if you will, that you could lay your baby are a play mat. I know that the Love Everyone is a popular one just because of how it looks. We also had one that had a kicker. I know the Fisher Price kicker one is really popular because our son did really like kicking when he was little, and so I'd recommend a kicker one too. And then one thing I'm still up in the air about maybe getting for a second baby is the Snuggle Me Lounger, and they just came out with a new one that's a lounger curve, and it's less just a pocket that your baby sits in and more just a cushion, because like we have a mat on our floor, but it's not super cushiony for a newborn, and so I'm still thinking about getting that can either sit on the couch or lay on the floor. But TBD, because again, it's another expensive item that I don't know that you necessarily need. I think you could put a towel inside a pillowcase and it would fill the same role. So TBD on that one. As far as toys for a newborn, they don't need much. Contrast cards are great for newborns, but beyond that, I wouldn't put any toys really on your registry. Maybe a toy that can hang from the bar of your car seat or the bar of your bouncer, just so they can start to grab at things. But initially, that's all you really need. Eventually, you'll need some teethers and things like that, but I wouldn't go crazy on a registry for toys. Down the line, I would recommend a toy subscription, either Love Every or KiwiCo, and here's why. For someone who is a stay-at-home mom and has the time to be doing research on baby development and the best toys for baby and things like that, I think you can make do without a toy subscription. It's definitely not a necessity. However, I wish that I had gotten one for the ease of it and for the peace of mind that every couple months I'm going to get a new box of toys that will help teach me how to interact with my baby. It gives you a card that explains how to use each toy, and I know that I would have it coming. I know I wouldn't have to worry about buying my own toys, which takes research and brain work and time, which is limited as a working mom. So if you're a working mom, I would recommend a toy subscription and just using that, like not really buying much else. However, if you are going to buy toys, I would either recommend a toy subscription with toys that you know are high quality, are going to last for multiple babies, multiple years, non-toxic, non-overstimulating, all those things. So I'd either recommend investing in those quality toys or buying used. Like, there's no reason you need to go to Walmart or Target and just like peruse down the toy aisle. Like, you can go to Once Upon a Child and find plenty of toys. Like, I don't think it's worth the money or the effort. Like, maybe for holidays or birthdays you can get a new toy, but you can find so many good things used. And then in our house, we just use baskets for toy storage. That's the best system for us because it makes cleanup super easy. And I try to be a really organized person, but when it comes to toys that are being pulled out multiple times a day, there's just no way to perfectly organize everything that I have found. I need to ask some older moms their advice on this even, because I have not mastered a perfect toy rotation system, but we just have 4 baskets in our living room and put toys in there. When it comes to baby proofing your house, it really depends on your house. We have enjoyed making our whole main level baby proof, like that's all Weston's space. We use our living area as a play area. We have a really nice House of Noah mat that kind of looks like a rug, so it's still cute, but functional for playing around on the floor. And then those 4 baskets are there for us to use. I think Liz had a play gate on her registry, which, thinking about the structure of her house, makes sense. So I would just think about your own house and what's going to make sense, but I wouldn't go crazy with getting baby gates and baby proofing stuff right off the bat. Like, obviously you're going to need outlet covers and things like that once they start crawling and walking, but I thought we were going to need a big gate on our stairs, but we've just enforced the word no when it comes to our stairs, and Weston knows not to go up the stairs. So I would just wait to order those things until you need them, because again, 1-day shipping, a gate can get to your house the next day if you really realize that you need it. But I wouldn't waste your time, money, or risk having tons of clutter that you never ended up using in your house. Okay, that's it for the baby gear category. There's 2 more categories and I'll try to breeze through them. The second to last category is health and safety. In this category on Liz's registry, they had things like binkies. My son only in like the first couple weeks of his life did he have any interest in a binky. After that, he never needed it. So I wouldn't go crazy getting a ton of binkies. I would have some to have on hand initially, just to help them fall asleep mostly, but I wouldn't get a ton of different brands, a ton of different colors, all that. I've seen good things about the Bibs brand. That's what I might get just to have on hand for baby number 2 if they want to use a pacifier, but I wouldn't push a pacifier because I was worried about it messing with breastfeeding, which I don't think is necessarily a need for concern, but he just never used them, so I wouldn't push it, and I've never had to worry about weaning off of a pacifier because he never used it from the get-go. So other things in this category, I would put a snot sucker on your registry, and I would just go for the basic Frida baby straw looking one. And the reason this is, like, we had a fancy electronic, like big loud, like suck all your snot out one, and like as a baby, like he was scared of it, and so I never really used it on him. And I know it works for a lot of moms, but it just wasn't necessary. The straw did the job. Other things are baby nail clippers. We just use normal clippers. I know that a lot of people love the electric file, which we have one, but we've just never used it because our clippers work fine. It's definitely harder once they're a little bit older and wiggly to clip their nails, but you make do. When he was little, we used a little silicone like toothbrush that went on my finger to brush his teeth. Now we just have like a normal little toddler toothbrush. So I put one of those on your registry, a thermometer, like a touchless thermometer, and a normal thermometer. Both of those are good to have on hand. And then a cradle cap brush. Just basic cradle cap brushes are good to have. I know Frida Baby does have a good, like, it's a 3-part system. It has like a fine tooth comb that helps you get all the cradle cap out of baby's hair and head, and a little scrubber. So I'd recommend one of those. And then the last category is the bathing category. For Weston, we had the Angel Care bath seat, which looks like this. You just sit it in your bath and fill the water up to where it gets on their back and bum. And then you just use a cup, or like I know Liz has a control the flow Frida pitcher on her registry, which I think is great. It has like a little soft spot where you can like put it on baby's head so it doesn't get in their eyes, and pour water over their head. But I will say, when it comes to water exposure in babies, it's okay if water runs down their face. Like, that's how they learn to be comfortable in the waters, if they feel that feeling of it coming down their face and learn that it's okay, that they can still breathe. So don't stress too much. We just use a plastic cup in our bathtub. So I would get some sort of cup system. When they're older and start using bath toys, I would recommend the Munchkin toy collector. Liz has this on her registry. It just hooks to the wall and you just grab it and like scoop up all the toys and put it back. I know Every Life makes a nice soap and lotion set that I would trust as a non-toxic soap. Right now that Weston's older, we just use our general body soap on him, and it has worked just fine. If you are going to get toys, get the mold-free kind, and then we've just enjoyed cups in the bath with Weston because he's learning how to pour and catch the water in other cups and things like that for some fine motor skills. And then if you do have a bathtub, we actually don't in this house, we just have showers, but if you have a bathtub, I'd recommend getting the little kneeler set so you have a little cushion for your knees and for your elbows on the ledge of the bath. Like, it's extra, but it's nice to have that if you're going to be spending lots of time kneeling by the bath. And the one last item I think I had was the Miss Mouth stain treater. Like, that's just kind of a miscellaneous item for everything, whether it's your nursing chair or clothing or whatever. Oh, and as far as clothing goes, I would say every new mom goes through this, I feel like, but when they're a newborn, for baby number 2, all I'm going to put this child in is sleepers. I buy a lot of fun clothes, like 2-piece sets. Like, I had little infant, like 0 to 3 jeans for Weston, and I just look back and I'm like, man, that was unnecessary work, and with 2 babies, I'm just not going to feel like putting my baby in anything but a sleeper. So for those first couple months, at least, like up to 0 to 3, of course, if there's a fun event or special occasion, you can find an outfit for that, but I would recommend just finding quality sleepers that you really enjoy and want to put your baby in, that you will gravitate towards when you go to reach for clothes. For a 3rd, 4th, I don't know how many time I'll say, I recommend organic cotton. Burt's Bees has baby clothes as well that I will be looking at for some basics for baby number 2, as well as a brand called Colored Organics. And then as far as other things I would buy new, the Walmart line, I think it's a Gerber line, Modern Moments, they have a lot of cotton options too. Those have been all brands that I would recommend if you're going to invest in quality clothing pieces that you'll use for multiple babies. So if you're going to buy white onesies or white sleepers that you can use for multiple children, or gender neutral colored sleepers, those are the brands I'd recommend. And then everything else I'd buy secondhand, because you can find so many great items at Once Upon a Child or any other baby thrift store. Other brands that I've really enjoyed for both baby clothes, for baby sleepers, I really like the brand Cloud Island. They're not the best material as far as like organic and all that, but they're a really stretchy material that's easy to put on a baby, so the Cloud Island brand has been great. And then other brands I'll look for at the baby thrift store are the Cat and Jack line that's originally sold at Target. I get Cat and Jack stuff for Weston most exclusively at Once Upon a Child. It's just nice to like have a brand that you're looking for so you can like quickly browse through clothes. They've just been the easiest to put on, lasted the longest, and yeah, that's kind of it when it comes to clothes. I know that this was a really long video and might not have been super interesting for all of our viewers. I know not all of you are in the mom era, but I know I loved watching these videos even before I became a mom. And I know especially once I did get pregnant, I watched so many of these videos. So if you're a friend who's asked me for my advice on a baby registry, or if you're one of our listeners who's watching, I hope that you enjoyed this video. It was a little different format. I hope that that was fun to get some more visual aspects out of it. I also have so many things down the line that I will touch on when it comes to spiritually preparing for a baby and motherhood. I just real quick to end this video and this podcast, one thing that I did postpartum, I'll say, because I started it January 1st and my baby was born in the middle of January. That's when I started the Bible recap. And if there's anything I could recommend for preparing for a baby, preparing for postpartum, is to have a plan for you as a mom being in the Word. That is, my Bible is the number one item that I reached for postpartum, and I'm trying to get back to that as I prepare for baby number 2. And so, as always, Liz and I just hope that we can point you back to the Word of God, point you back to the Holy Spirit as the one thing that you can rely on to really get you through anything in life, whether it's motherhood or anything else. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Next week we'll have Liz back on the podcast, but thank you all for listening. This has been Erin, helping you mind your mission when it comes to your baby registry.